All right. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to the stage is our final storyteller. We are doing the show according to height, apparently. He is the tallest storyteller in the room. He is also the whitest Hispanic in the room, and for me to say that, that says a lot, yeah. And also, he is a gifted and talented magician. If you have ever seen him do that aspect of his art, he is quite talented and just a wonderful all-around guy. He's also a teacher, and he is a pretty damn good storyteller. We like to wrap up the show with him often. Ladies and gentlemen, Señor Ruben Padilla.
That makes me the tallest fashion model in the room, right? Hi, everybody. My father is 24 years older than me, and we don't kiss each other. Never have. We don't even hug, really. It's always a handshake, and I've always been saddened by that. I'm old enough to change this, I suppose, but I don't because I think it would make him feel awkward. He was raised by his grandparents, and informalities were rare. This is my son, Knight. Oh. He'll be 7 years old next week. Now, Knight, K-N-I-G-H-T, sounds like a fancy Hollywood name like Apple or Prince, but it's not. It's my grandfather's name on my mother's side, Knight Wise. That's a cool name. He died when I was 4. I have just one memory of him, sitting on my couch reading a thick paperback novel with red gilded edges as I shuffled around the room wearing his cowboy boots, which went up past my knees. I remember him laughing, and I remember he was drinking. That's it. I spend 2 days a week with Knight in San Diego, usually Sunday mornings till Tuesday. We stay at my dad's house. Yesterday, Knight told his mother that he doesn't want to stay there anymore because the house is so messy. I've spoken about my dad's hoarding problem before, and I've often tried to persuade him to change his ways, but nobody thinks he'll do it. I've instructed Knight to write a note to his grandpa expressing how he feels. Maybe it'll make a difference. If it doesn't, I don't know what we're going to do because I don't want Knight staying at his grandpa's if he's uncomfortable. On Monday and Tuesday mornings, I have to get Knight to school. My dad lives about a 25-minute drive away, so we have to get up extra early. Because of this, Knight sometimes gets very grumpy as I try to wake him up. So I've devised some games to make it easier. Maybe it's just me, but I'd rather have some fun than just order him out of bed. Sometimes we have very competitive races to see who can get dressed first. He loves to distract me so that he can get started before I officially start the race, and this way he always manages to win. Good news is he gets dressed. Bad news is he's a cheater. I have to remember to talk to him about that. At other times, I pretend to be a hostile extraterrestrial from an invading planet, and the only thing that will stem my vengeance toward humanity and save the world is Knight getting dressed. But we don't play that too often because Knight's getting to the age where an activity involving clothing is not as attractive as attempting to physically beat up the invading alien. Our favorite game involves Knight pretending to be asleep, and I can't move him because he's so massively strong. So I have to call in our imaginary friend. His name is Frank, and he's a dour fellow. Frank has a lot of work to do and can't be bothered to help move a kid. But somehow I always manage to convince him to help me, and when he does, he once again discovers that even with the two of us, Knight is much too powerful to budge. This frustrates Frank to no end, and he ends up storming out of the room, his footsteps fading down the hall. It's amusing tonight that every morning we try this, I'm always able to creatively entice Frank to help just one more time. And Frank always falls for it, and Knight smiles as he gets ready for school. The time will come when Knight won't want to play these games any longer, and I'm aware of that. Frank will die. Will it be a quick, painless death, or a slow, agonizing fight for life? I don't know. Frank is not one to go quietly. Knight has lost 3 baby teeth. We're at that age. If a tooth is loose, he'll play with it incessantly, despite the fact that it creeps me out. In fact, he likes to do it because it creeps me out. "Dad," he'll say, and when I look, he's tonguing it back and forth, grinning. 2 of them came out when I was in LA, and I missed it. It bothered me more than I should, I guess. But yesterday morning, just as we were about to exit the house and running behind, Knight held out his hand and said, "My tooth just came out." It was his other front tooth. He lost the first one a few weeks ago. He had been prying it for days, and I'm still amazed at how surprised he was. We ran to the bathroom to rinse out his mouth. He insisted on carefully examining his new look in the mirror. He opened his mouth, smiled, and said, "Hello." He wanted to wash the blood out of the tooth, so I told him to do it gingerly, holding it carefully between his fingers under the running water. But in his excitement, he just held out his palm and thrust it under the faucet at full blast. Somehow, I managed to catch the little tooth before it went down the drain. We were already late for school, but I remember thinking that this was much more important than being on time. And I agreed with Knight that there was no greater reason in the world to be tardy. When we got to the school half an hour later, as I was walking him to class, we realized that in the excitement, we had forgotten his backpack at home. It had his snack, his lunch, his homework. He needed it. So I told him I'd be right back, left him at school, and drove all the way back to my dad's. On the way there, I got very thirsty, and Knight hadn't quite finished the small bottle of orange juice we brought with us. Normally, I'd finish it off, but he had been drinking it in the aftermath of a freshly missing tooth. I love my son, but not enough to drink his blood. So when I got to my dad's, I grabbed my own bottle of juice from the refrigerator that I proceeded to enjoy on the way back. And when I got to the school again, I realized that I had forgotten the backpack. I felt so old. In utter disbelief, I turned the car around again and drove back for 25 minutes again, angrily grabbed the backpack, threw it in my car, and returned to the school again. I had spent a total of 2 hours in the car before spending another 3 hours driving back to LA. When I got to the school the final time, snack period had just begun, and Knight asked me how I could have forgotten about him. After assuring him that I indeed had not forgotten about him and was delayed because I had forgotten the backpack a second time, he smiled and said, "You should have asked Frank to bring it." Before I walked away, I asked him for a kiss. And he looked beyond me to some nearby second graders and remained still. "You don't want to kiss me in front of the other kids?" I asked. He shook his head. "That's okay," I said. "Can I give you a kiss? That's okay, right?" He nodded.
Ruben Padilla.